So here's the deal, Nintendo just revealed the Switch 2 on April 2nd in the latest Direct, and with that there was just one number kept popping up on my feed over and over again, $80. Nintendo just dropped that price for the new Mario Kart World game, and let me tell you, people are freaking out about it. The price tag is a massive jump from Nintendo's usual $60 baseline, and it's making fans really nervous. We've got this brand new Switch console, a ton of new features and games, and then suddenly, bam, $80 for a single game. And here's the kicker, this is likely just the beginning. If Nintendo can get away with this, you can bet other companies like Sony and Microsoft will be watching really closely. So how did we get here? And what is Nintendo planning to do for the future? How did Nintendo go from being the king of affordability, consistent prices, to just slapping on an $80 price tag on Mario Kart? So to break this all down, the Switch 2 was first teased back in January and it's officially launching on June 5th. So this is pretty exciting. At the latest Direct, Nintendo revealed a lot of news about their new gaming console and that the base system will be $449, or you can grab yourself a bundle with Mario Kart World for $499. Sounds pretty standard, right? Well, here's where things get really interesting. The standalone price for Mario Kart World is $80 in the United States. And get this, when you do the math in Europe, it's closer to $90 once you factor in the conversion from pounds to dollars. This is the first time Nintendo has pushed past that $60 price tag for one of its franchises at launch. And let's be clear, they rarely, if ever, discount any of their games. A $60 Switch title stays $60 for years and years and years. Nintendo has always had a very comfortable $60 price mark for a few generations now. And that wasn't just for the reasons about game quality, it was about the consistency and trust that they've also built with their audience over time. In their eyes, a game like Mario Odyssey isn't just worth $60 at launch, it still would be worth $60 5 years later. And for a while, players accepted that. Nintendo earned a kind of pricing immunity because their games felt timeless, but now you can really see that their trust now is being tested with their decision making. To really understand why this $80 price tag feels like a big deal, we need to rewind a little bit. The $60 standard we've all gotten used to, that wasn't always the norm. Back in the NES and SNES days, game prices were all over the place. Some cartridges were $40, others pushed to $70 or even more, depending on memory chips and the manufacturing costs. It was kind of like the Wild West of pricing with no real consistency anywhere. It wasn't until the Xbox 360 and PS3 era that $60 really became the consistent baseline for new AAA games. $60 struck a balance compared to all of the other variation of prices of games in the gaming market had before, to between a good sweet spot for consumers' expectations and publisher profit margins. It worked really well, and Nintendo followed that trend with the Wii U, and it struck through the Switch era, but now Nintendo had broken the barrier. Now, to be fair, a price increase was probably inevitable at some point. Games are more expensive to make now, development teams are bigger, and games take longer to produce. So yeah, we all kinda knew that this was coming at some point. But Nintendo's approach, it's just a little strange. There was no big explanation. They didn't exactly roll out a big announcement explaining this $80 price tag. It was more like, hey, here's the new Switch 2. Oh, and by the way, Mario Kart World is $80. Like they just slipped it out there like a stealth ninja, hoping we wouldn't notice until it was too late. Which is pretty sneaky. They just slapped on the $80 price tag on Mario Kart World and hoped we wouldn't notice. And that just feels a bit off to me. And so that's the big thing, that Mario Kart World doesn't really feel like an $80 game to begin with. I do love Mario Kart, and the visuals do look really good, but it doesn't seem like a game that screams premium price tag and demanded a ton of resources. So when you're charging an $80 game for it, you kinda expect some mind-blowing graphics or a story that will make you cry, but no, it's just Mario Kart. And that's what's getting everyone riled up. Now, compare Mario Kart World to something like Spider-Man 2 or Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Games that have huge teams behind them, insane production values, and their detailed narratives, then yeah, I get the $70 price tag. But Mario Kart, from what we've seen so far, it does look good, but not revolutionary. It doesn't scream, we've broken the bank making this. It feels more like a typical Mario Kart game with a few added bells and whistles. And charging $80 for it? Well, that's a tough sell. This really, for a lot of players, just puts them in a really weird spot. They are paying more, but not necessarily getting more. And once that disconnect starts to form, people start to question everything about Nintendo. What does this mean for the future of Nintendo's games? What does it mean for the next big release? If Mario Kart can be priced at $80, what's stopping Nintendo from doing the same thing with every major game moving forward? And so this isn't even just about Nintendo themselves, this is also about other publishers are closely watching as well. They are going to be watching on how the audience and market reacts to this change. If the Switch 2 audience just shrugs and accepts the $80 as the new standard, you can bet third-party developers will start creeping up the prices too. They'll see Nintendo leading the change and think, well, if Nintendo can do it, so can we. Sony and 2K have already raised the prices to $70 for next-gen titles, and no one lost their minds over that. Sure, our wallets did take a hit from it, but it did become the new standard. No one really asked questions. But with Nintendo, it feels really different. People aren't just mad about the price, they're mad about the way that Nintendo went about it. Different game companies framed their price hike as a response to rising development costs and next-gen production values when going from $60 to $70. It made some sense, there was a clear reason behind it, even if it did stung a little bit. But Nintendo, they just dropped the $80 price tag with no real explanation. No breakdown of what the extra $10 or $20 was going towards. No, this is what you're paying for a moment. They just didn't even bother to prepare for fans what was coming, and that's where the frustration really started to boil. This isn't just about the price increase itself, it's the lack of context and the lack of clarity of it all. It feels like Nintendo's expecting us to just roll with it, and that's not sitting with us well as gamers. And just when fans were still processing that, things got even weirder. The physical copy of Mario Kart World is actually more expensive than the digital one, or at least that's what we're seeing so far, especially over in Europe. The digital version of Mario Kart World is priced at $80, but the physical version is going to be $90. And this is extremely weird because shouldn't the physical version of a game be the exact same as the digital? But here's the twist. According to reports, not all physical copies on Switch 2 actually have the full game on the cartridge. Some are just download keys in disguise, or game keycards that trigger a digital download but still need to be inserted to play. So you're paying more to still download the game. This kind of feels like buying a burrito, and you unwrap it just to find a picture of a burrito inside. You paid for it, but you didn't get what you expected. Now, producing cartridges with the boxes and shipping them all over the world does stack up financially for these companies, and unlike with digital, there's no guarantee Nintendo gets 100% of that revenue, so retailers really do take a cut. So it's starting to look like Nintendo's trying to pocket a little extra cash here. They're making physical games a bit more expensive, while pushing for the digital shift in a not so direct way. It's like they're making it just a little bit more painful to stick with physical copies without outright forcing it on consumers. This is really going to hurt retailers like GameStop once consumers are to notice that their products are way more expensive in stores. And physical sales will really soon start to drop off rapidly, with these retailers being that they will be the first to take a hit. Now for collectors and those who prefer physical copies, this is going to feel like you're getting hit twice. First, you're paying more, $80 or $90, and then you open the case and realize there might not even be a full game on the cartridge. Some physical releases on Switch 2, including third-party titles, are already confirmed to be using those game keycards, where the data isn't stored on the cartridge, you just use it to unlock a digital download. That completely changes what a physical copy even means, because it's not really physical anymore, it's a license with packaging, and that's a nightmare for people who buy games to own them. The big picture here, this could be the beginning of the end for physical games as we know them. Between the increased costs, the digital incentives, and this weird halfway zone with game keycards, it does feel like companies, Nintendo included, are slowly moving away from physical distribution without saying it out loud. For the industry, that shift means more control for publishers, but for players, it means less ownership, more reliance on their servers, and to be honest, a sadder, worse looking bookshelf. So yeah, you can see, fans did not hold back when the price was revealed. The second the price was revealed, you could feel it ripple through the internet as news started to break out. Twitter blew up, Reddit threads exploded, but people went from cracking jokes to genuinely wondering if this was just a start to something bigger, something that could affect every game moving forward. What's interesting though is that the reaction wasn't all negative. I mean, people really wanted to be excited for Mario Kart World. The trailer looked awesome, the new features are cool, and a lot lot of the fans were ready to pre-order the second the Direct ended. It had the classic Nintendo charm. But then bam, that $80 price tag dropped on Nintendo's website, and suddenly the tone of the conversation online shifted faster than a blue shell in a Mario Kart race. It wasn't about whether the game looked good anymore, it wasn't about racing through Coconut Mall or pulling off cool tricks. You can now feel the energy shift from, wow, I can't wait to play this game, to, oh wait, are all of my Nintendo games going to be this expensive now that I won't be able to pay my insurance bills? You could practically hear the collective groan from the community. And so just recently, Nintendo decided to run their Treehouse streams, where they basically showcase their games like Mario Kart World and a few other Switch 2 titles. Except, what came to be really surprising is that a lot of the live stream chat were not talking about the game or the Switch 2 overall. You would just see a spam with a wall of text of drop the price, over and over again relating to Mario Kart. You would see the chat say, we're not paying that much Nintendo, wake up, this game better come with a real cart, and this didn't stop the whole way through of the 4-hour livestream. One comment said it felt like the Avengers assembled, and this seemed to be one of the largest online protests that I have ever seen. And so far, Nintendo hasn't said a word about this. No statement, no clarification, just the sounds of coins being collected in the game while the livestream was playing. A lot of people aren't even mad about this game, they're just mad about what it means for future titles. You'll see comments like, if Mario Kart is $80, how much is the next Zelda game going to cost? It's like everyone's already bracing for the worst, thinking this is the start of an avalanche of price hikes. On Reddit, you can see a lot of back and forth onto whether this decision by Nintendo is a big deal or not. On Twitter, you have everyone in outrage, and even larger creators disapproving of this in complete disbelief. And of course, there's that classic Nintendo meme energy kicking in, with the whole I guess I'm pirating games now sort of sentiment, like people are now suddenly considering the morally gray areas of gaming. But beneath all of the jokes and memes, there's this undeniable unease with gamers. It's not just about this one game, it's about what this move could mean for the future of gaming. But the truth is, Nintendo might just be testing the waters here. No big flashy announcement, no marketing spins, just dropping the price tag on a box and saying, let's just see what happens. And if this works, well, other publishers are going to be watching and they'll probably follow suit. This could set a pretty wild precedent for the entire gaming industry. Suddenly, $80 becomes the new ceiling, not just for Nintendo, but for any publisher who thinks their game has enough weight to justify it. We could end up seeing more aggressive pricing tiers in general. $70 becomes a new baseline for regular games, $80 for premium experiences, and who knows, maybe $90+ for deluxe or early access editions, just as examples, which all of this stuff just sounds really wild. Now, here's the twist that not a lot of people are talking about. While the price for AAA games is shooting up, indie developers could actually benefit from this situation. Indie games, which usually stay in that sweet $20 to $40 price range, could stand out even more in a landscape where $80 becomes the norm. They might become the go-to option for players looking for a polished, unique experience without having to drop a small fortune. And as that cost of AAA games rise, indie developers could become the budget-friendly gems everyone turns to when they're tired of paying through the nose for the next big release. While Nintendo is raising the bar for big-budget games, smaller developers could be riding the wave in a totally different direction, offering games that are fresh and accessible and also satisfying. That said, there is a bit of an argument for this price hike. The idea is that higher prices could lead to bigger budgets, more polish, and ultimately better games. It's like paying a premium high-end meal at a fancy restaurant. You're hoping it'll be worth the extra cost, right? In theory, a higher price point could help developers take more risks and push creative boundaries. Some analysts are backing up this theory. They argue that this price increase makes sense from a business standpoint. With inflation and a lot of the rising production costs, margins are tighter than ever. According to Suken Toto, a Japan-based game expert, part of this aggressive pricing might actually be Nintendo future-proofing against potential supply chain issues and tariffs, particularly in the United States. If that's the case, then it's not just about development costs, it's about protecting the long-term margins and staying ahead of any future obstacles. But here's the main million-dollar question. Does Mario Kart World still feel like an $80 game? From what we've seen so far, it looks more like an evolution than a revolution. Sure, the graphics are great, but there's nothing game-changing about the core experience. It's not like there's a massive leap in production value that justifies the extra $20. So if you're paying more, but not really getting more, at least not yet, then what exactly are we supporting? A better future for Nintendo games, or just a more expensive one? No matter what you think the reasoning behind the price increase is, one thing's for sure, the entire industry is watching Nintendo's pricing decisions closely. We all do have to prepare ourselves because this could very well send shockwaves through the gaming market, and prices may never be the same again. I think this one move from Nintendo could actually mean a lot more for us players than the industry as a whole. When deciding to buy a Switch 2, it really does make that $499 bundle way more valuable since you won't be having to pay for an $80 Mario Kart. But this whole rollout with Nintendo sneaking in the price increase, where it wasn't detailed within the presentation, just felt like Nintendo quietly snuck in a new standard, hoping nobody would push back. So I'm really curious about what everyone thinks. Is this a deal breaker, or is this entire controversy just going to pass by us once we start driving around Coconut Mall on our new Switches? Or you guys can just watch my next video.